He's sold more than 1 million children's books worldwide, and if you've ever bought a coffee in a railway station, there's every chance he's got a drawing on that he drew. I'm journalist Angela Walker, and in this podcast I talk to inspirational people. My guest today is award-winning children's author and graphic novelist, creator of the Barry Losers series, Jim Smith. I'll be talking to Jim about how he got started and what it is that makes his books so appealing to children. Hi Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi Angela, my pleasure.
First of all, you've sold around 1 million books worldwide. What does that feel like?
I don't know what it feels like really. It's difficult to put a feeling to that. It's more that I'm just happy to be still writing books really. I get to sit at my desk every day writing and drawing, and that's what I always wanted to do since I was a kid.
And how did you get started then?
Well, I always loved writing and drawing when I was a kid. I never really stopped. I went to art college and university, and I just drew for 3 years at university. Then when I left there, I was showing my work around, and I made a little cutout of a wooden Santa Claus for my dad's shop. He had a lighting shop, and someone saw it, and they had a few coffee shops. And they asked me to do a few of those for them. And it went from there really. I started to do all of their coffee designs and cups and sugar sachets, and eventually I started to write little short stories, and that led to me writing kids' books.
And so the coffee shop chain is called Puccino's, isn't it? And they're everywhere. There are all the railway stations and so on. What's it like when you get a train and there's someone with a coffee cup and there's a picture on it that you drew?
Yeah, I have snuck a few photos of people holding my cups. I like it when I see them reading them. I even like seeing them just sort of in bins and stuff like that.
Quite random. Have you ever been tempted to go up to someone and go, "Oh, I drew that"?
Yeah, I've been tempted. I've never done it.
You haven't done it?
No, not yet.
It must be a good feeling. It must be a good feeling. And how do you come up with the idea for the doodles and stuff for that?
I don't know. I've always loved coming up with ideas. I went into graphic design originally because I was so ideas based. And I don't know, my dad was in advertising. It was just always around me coming up with funny little ideas and jokes. So I just collect them in my sketchbook, really.
And I know one of your biggest characters is poor old Barry Loser. For people who aren't familiar with Barry Loser, can you tell us a bit about his story? Yeah,
well, he's got an unfortunate name. Barry's not the coolest name, and then pair it with Loser. It's pretty bad. I think it's sort of based on me having Jim Smith as a name, pretty common name. So he's his main thing is wanting to tell everyone that he's not actually a loser. He's quite a sort of imaginative little kid. So in a way, it's sort of an autobiography of me. Quite a lot of the stories are based on stuff that happened to me when I was a kid.
Well, one of your biggest fans is my daughter, Amelia, and she's 9, and she absolutely loves Barry Loser. She's got all your books. And so I'm going to introduce her here now. Amelia, what is it that you love so much about Barry Loser?
I like it because they're really rude and they talk about poo and farts a lot, and that really makes me smile.
Jim, is that what makes your book so appealing to kids, the fact that they're a bit rude?
I think it probably is. I mean, that was the stuff I loved when I was a kid. Beano, Mad Magazine, anything a little bit subversive and naughty. I think that's what kids like.
And what about the parents, though? Do you get any feedback from the parents?
Yeah, I mean, some don't like it, unsurprisingly, especially if I go to a school and I teach the kids how to draw dog poo. But yeah, mostly they're all right with it, I think.
And come on, Amelia, I know you've got another question for Jim. What would you like to ask him?
Okay. Why do you draw the characters with really big noses?
Yes. I think I always liked cartoons with big noses, so I kind of took that, made it even bigger. And I just like noses. They're funny. We've all got a nose sticking out the middle of our faces. Not many of us are happy with our noses. I like smelling stuff as well. It's a good comedy bit of the body, I think.
And there was another question, wasn't there, Amelia?
Why does everyone have three fingers?
Oh, yes. Well, nice thing about cartoons is you can boil stuff down. So you don't have to show 5 fingers in the cartoon. You can show 3 or 4. So you still get the idea, and it's a lot quicker to do. So it's kind of a lazy man's art, I think, cartooning.
Thanks, Amelia, for your questions. So they are very distinctive, these characters, with the big noses and the hands and stuff like that. Was that something that you had in mind when you were coming up with Barry Loser and the kind of like the look of the series?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think famously cartoons, the best characters, you can tell who they are just from their silhouettes. So I thought about that, and I thought, all right, they're going to have something that really sticks out. So once I decided it was the nose, I had my like kind of silhouette that you could tell my characters just from seeing their shadows.
So Barry and his mates, they go on all these sort of journeys and have these sort of adventures. But how do you come up with the story ideas?
I just have big lists of ideas that popped into my head. I write everything down, or mostly. If I don't, I definitely forget it, which is really annoying. Then when I'm about to write a story, I try and find an idea that's an emotion for the character and an idea that's a kind of situation. If I've got those two things, then I generally can come up with a all right story.
And where'd you come up with the idea of all the kind of, they've got some really fun names for the products in there. And I think there was a drink and it was Tears of Grandma or something random.
Oh yeah, Tears
like
of
that.
Granny Laughter.
That's
just an idea that I had that, I don't know where that came from, that you could make a drink out of granny tears. There's a lot of grannies in my stories. I'd collected cans and bottles when I was a kid. I was always into design and graphics. So it's that part of me being having some fun.
And how difficult was it to get a publisher to do this series? You know, you've got this character, he's kind of funny looking, he's always talking about blow-offs and bogeys, and, you know, how hard was it to kind of like sell that idea and be like, I want to do a whole series and I want you to pay me for it, kind of thing?
I remember showing my stuff around the publisher and someone said, you've got a brain of an 8-year-old. So I sort of thought, okay, I'm going to have to stick with kids' books. And I knew publishers were looking for wimpy kid kind of books. So I kind of tailored it towards that end of the market. And I just sent stuff out to agents. Luckily, one of them took me on. And then she sent stuff out to publishers. And that was how it happened. So, I mean, it took years of kind of rejection. But I quite liked getting rejections. It just made me want to prove them wrong.
Yeah, there's probably people listening who are facing rejection. I mean, I know what it's like as a journalist when you pitch a story idea and you think it's great and nobody wants it. And what's your kind of advice to someone who's listening thinking, oh, I had this great story idea, but nobody's picked up on it yet?
I think just trust that it's great. And you need to find the right person, I suppose, that also thinks it's great. So I think a good stubborn streak helps. Just wanting to prove people wrong and keep going. Because it's the people that want to do it that end up doing it.
And how do you go about planning a graphic novel like this? Do you like come up with the story idea or the idea for the pictures? What's the sort of process? And do you have a formula that you follow each time?
I mean, I have my little story idea, and then I do get kind of images in my head of scenes that I think are funny, and I want to get to that scene. So I kind of roughly know the arc of the story. Then I just start doing it, and it's kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, going back and tidying up mistakes as I go. But I like kind of being able to do little detours on the way because it kind of surprises me, and I think that makes for a better read.
And do you think you're ever going to get bored with it?
No, I can't see it. No, it's my favorite. I've always wanted to do it, and it's my favorite thing to do.
And when you're drawing, how big are the pictures? Do you draw them like really big, or are they, because, you know, the books are kind of like A5 size.
Yeah.
How big are the drawings for each page?
I do it all on my iPad. So I have my program, Photoshop, on iPad, and I make the page to the size it is, and then I just get my Apple Pencil and draw on the iPad. So I can zoom in, I can zoom out, but I mean, yeah, it's just a little kind of A4 iPad.
Oh wow! So I thought there were like all these reams and reams of paper, and you were
They
there
used to be.
at like your easel and stuff.
Yeah, now I know. That's what my dream was as a kid, and now I'm like hunched over a computer. But it's so
Oh.
quick. I used to have to scan everything in. Now it's just there. So it's great.
And I was thinking about Barry Loser the other day, and I was thinking it would like make a great cartoon, like for TV. Is that something you've ever thought about?
Yeah, I mean, it's got, I wouldn't say close. It's got some way there a couple of times. And there's someone at the moment that has optioned it. So you never know, but these things take a long time.
Oh, that would be
Yeah, no,
so
I'd love to see
cool.
it. Yeah.
And who would
Seeing
have
the
the
noses
voice?
wobbling.
Yeah, and who would have the voice for Barry Loser?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's audiobooks already, and it's a guy called Hugh Parmenter, and he does them brilliantly. So if he wanted to do it.
That would be amazing. So what advice would you have for someone like a young person who was trying to get into graphic novels? What do they need to do?
I think definitely look at the market, see what publishers are publishing, and that probably is your best chance to get into the industry, is to kind of give them something like that, but a little twist on it. And then, and also just be prepared for criticism and rejection and take that on board, but also stick to your vision at the same time. So it's a bit of a juggling act, but tenacity is probably the main thing.
And do you know what? I found out the other day that there's almost 1 million children in this country who haven't got a single book at home. And I thought, you know what? When I was growing up and I had lots of books and my mum used to take me to the library and so on, how important do you think it is for kids to have books at home?
Well, yeah, it's really important. I mean, it's not only is it great escape, but unlike, say, a computer game, maybe, which is great escape, and TV, a book is calming and it's great company and it will teach you something. So I think it's great that World Book Day gives people every kid gets a token at every school to be able to get a book, and school libraries are getting better and better, I think, and they're having more and more graphic novels and things that kids like. So I don't think it's all bad. I mean, I think there are places where kids can find books, and obviously, like you say, the library is brilliant. So there's places you can get them.
And do you think that your books are quite a good way in for kids that maybe aren't so much into reading, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
Because as a graphic novel, they're kind of like entertaining as well as educational.
Yeah, I mean, I know for my own son, who's 9, that, I mean, pretty much all he'll read is graphic novels. And I think I was the same at that age. I just read the Beano. So, yeah, maybe it's the fact that it's something like the Beano, but it's in a book shape is even better, because it's getting them used to holding that book. And yeah, definitely.
And do you read your Barry Loser books and Future Ratboy books? Do you read those with your son?
I try not to, because he's my biggest critic.
Is he?
So I leave him to it, and then he'll call me upstairs if he's reading in bed and point out any mistakes I've made.
And does he come up with like story ideas for you and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, just being around him, I get ideas. He comes home from school with little things they get up to, and I jot them down. So it used to be my life that made the stories. Now it's his, really.
That's fun. And does he love that when you've got a book out and he's like, oh, yeah, I suggested that.
Yeah, he plays it cool, but
I
can see he's interested, yeah.
Oh, bless him. So you're influencing lots of kids and young children to get into reading, but who were your influences when you were younger?
Well, it's the classic Roald Dahl, really. Roald Dahl and Quentin Blake together, I just thought so perfect. I loved the mix of writing and drawing on a page that they gave. And then it was comics like Mad Magazine from America, the Beano. And then also I was just obsessed with packaging. I collected Coke cans from all over the world, and I just loved the graphics on them. So it's a kind of a mix of all of that.
We're big Roald Dahl and Quentin Blake fans, and I love Mr. Magnolia.
Oh yeah,
I
read that to my son a lot.
Yeah, we've got that book. We read it all the time. I love the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
and the language, which is just so great. And so you've got a couple of new books coming out soon. Tell us about those ones.
Yeah, I've got a book called How to Be a Genius Kid, and that is out in June, I think. It's basically my kid asking me lots of questions I don't know the answers to. So I was Googling all the time, and I thought, these are amazing, actually, and I can put these into a book. So it's one of those kind of fact books, but also mixed with a graphic novel. And then in August, I've got My Big Fat Smelly Poo Diary coming out, which is a little kid's diary, him and his little mates who are called the Poopies. And they just get up to lots of stuff, and there's a lot of poo in it.
Sounds revolting.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me saying. So that means that the kids are going to absolutely love it.
Yep.
Oh, if you hadn't have got into graphic novels, what else might you have done, do you think? Have you ever thought about it?
Well, my dream was always to design a Coke can, which is a bit specific.
It's very specific, yeah.
It is very specific. Or do you know what? When I go into a big greenhouse and it's all warm and misty and smells of like tomato plants, I just feel like very happy. So maybe something like that.
Oh well,
plants.
maybe you could have your own green. Have you got your own greenhouse?
No, so that can be a dream. Can't it?
Treat yourself to a greenhouse.
Yeah,
and then you might get
idea.
Inspired. You could write a whole series about it.
Yeah, maybe I put my desk in it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It might not do the iPad.
A bit humid.
Yeah, a bit too humid for the iPad. Oh. Well, thank you, Jim, so much for joining us. It's
my pleasure.
Absolutely fascinating, and good luck with the new books.
Thank you very much.
I'm Angela Walker, and I've been in conversation with Jim Smith, creator of the Barry Loser and Future Ratboy series. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Don't forget to share, rate and review it so other people can enjoy it too. And check out my website, angelawalkerreports.com. Until next time, goodbye.